This is Tony from Campfire and Countryside. So today, me and Stella and Uno and Pearl, because they are aggravating the fire out of me this morning, we are going to build some poo noodles or some fishing noodles. So y'all remember a week or so ago, we got the boat fixed. Boat's ready to go. We just need something to fish with. So I used to really love to catfish. And in the process of catfishing, Pearl apparently this morning has a lot to say. So in the process of catfishing, I jug fish all the time, or I like to jug fish. It's been a while, but it is extremely fun. Well, the thing about jug fishing is there's multiple ways that you can make jugs to fish with. And I saw a design one time that an older gentleman had, and I don't know who come up with the design, whether it was him or it was somebody else, but it is by far the best design on a poo noodle or a jug fishing noodle that I have ever saw in my life. So when you have something that's this amazing, you don't keep it to yourself. This is the kind of stuff that you share with folks. And if you want to build noodles, this is the way to go. So let me tell you a little bit first about the design. The design is that we're going to take a 2-foot long piece of PVC pipe, and once we cut that PVC pipe off, we're going to put a PVC cap on one end of it like this. At that point in time, we're going to cut us about 12 to 14 inches of poo noodle. And believe it or not, a poo noodle, the hole inside that poo noodle, I don't think Pearl believes what I'm saying. The inside hole on that poo noodle is designed, or it's real close to the same size as that 3/4 inch PVC pipe, and that pipe will slide inside of that poo noodle, and it don't slip. So we're going to cut us off a piece of this, slide it up the pipe. That's going to leave us about 10 inches of pipe that has nothing on it. And that's where the fun part comes in. So if we've got 10 inches of pipe with nothing on it, then I can take a little piece of metal. I had a couple of pieces that I cut with a bandsaw. A little piece of metal, and it's a solid piece of metal. I'm going to stick it in the other end of this PVC pipe, of the 2-foot piece of pipe, and then put a cap on it. So the thought process behind that is this piece of metal will slide up and down inside of that 2-foot piece of PVC pipe. So when I first put this noodle out and I bait it and whatever, get it ready to fish, I turn the noodle upside down so that the piece of metal slides to the float end of the PVC. Well, here's the thing. As long as you hadn't got a bite, or as long as your noodle is still fishing and doing its thing, that noodle lays down flat. One thing about jug fishing is that you get multiple bites. While this thing's floating down the river, you'll get multiple bites on that poo noodle or on your bait. And a lot of the time, a fish will steal your bait and you won't never know it. You'll never know, hey, they got my bait and now my jug floated for 200 more yards with no bait on it. So the design of this noodle or the design of this jug fixes that. By far, the best design on a fishing jug or a fishing noodle that I have ever saw in my life. As soon as this noodle gets a bite and a fish pulls down on the bottom end, that piece of metal slides down the tube back to the bottom, and it holds the noodle standing up in the water instead of it laying down flat. So whether you catch the fish or you don't catch the fish, you know that you got a bite on this particular noodle. So if the noodle is standing up, you need to go check it to see if there's a fish there or if you need to replace your bait. Let me tell y'all something while you're talking. We have approximately, 15 turkeys maybe. We started off with one gobbler and one hen, and the hen is so mean you can't get near that thing. She is something else. Her name is Tawanda. And Harold is the gobbler, and y'all can hear him in the background. They're all walking around. Even tame turkeys drove together. They stay together, so wherever they walk around in the yard, except for Uno and Pearl. Uno and Pearl's a different ballgame. They do what they want to. but all of the rest of the turkeys, they all stay together or they drove together and they watch each other. So all day while they're feeding, and for a long time we didn't let them out. But I mean, what kind of fun is it to live your whole life in a pen? And we've got several acres here that we're pretty secluded. We're long distance from any other houses. So, I mean, they don't hurt a thing in the world walking around. You have to dodge some turkey number 2 every now and then to keep you off your shoes from walking in the house. But besides that, we let the little turkeys walk around and feed around the yard. They eat all kind of bugs, ticks, and things like that. So they're fun. They're very, very fun to have in the yard. And I know you keep hearing them, and that's where Uno and Pearl come from. Uno and Pearl was first generation from Harold and Tawanda. Tawanda has literally had 3 groups of babies this year. And the first group of babies, the only 2 that survived out of that group are Uno and Pearl. So Uno and Pearl now, they're 9 or 10 months old. They're pretty good sized turkeys, and they were the turkeys in the boat fixing video. And believe it or not, they just walked off a minute ago. They're aggravating as they can be because they're very social animals. The second group of babies that Tawanda had, she had multiple turkeys. She had like 12 or 15 turkeys, and we gave a lot of them away, and because they're fun. They're fun to have, very social animals. We have 3 of them left, and out of this last bunch of eggs, Tawanda has 7 babies. And all 7 of those babies just walk around. They are about this tall now. They're not real big yet, but they're not real small. And they are fun to play with. So they're walking around right now, right behind the camera. Tawanda, Harold, and the 7 baby turkeys. Uno and Pearl, they went that way. And the other 3, they went that way. So I don't know where they went, but they're messing around. They were right here together, and they're feeding on in front of the bigger turkeys. All right, back to the poo noodle. So I'm gonna measure off 2 foot off of the end of this poo noodle. Got the old trusty tape measure. We're gonna get us a 2 foot mark. It's somewheres, and you understand, these don't have to be exact. This is all building stuff for fun and playing. So we're gonna get us somewheres around 2 foot. So this device I have in my hand is a pair of PVC cutters. If you don't have PVC cutters and you're trying to cut PVC, then you need to get some PVC cutters. All right, so we're gonna put a cap on one end, and I'm not gonna glue all this yet because I wanna test them all. I'm gonna put a cap on one end, and I'm going to slide one of those metal sleeves up in the end of that noodle. We're gonna cut us off a piece of the big noodle that's somewheres around half the distance, maybe a little more than half the distance of the piece of PVC pipe that we just cut. So I'm going to lay this out of the way for now. Going to get it up here. There'd be the whole distance. So since we cut it 24 inches, let's cut this one about 14 inches. That gives us a little bit longer than halfway. So if I cut this thing off, I've got it cut off 14 inches. Now I want to slide it. Remember, we just stuck our piece of metal up in there. Metal slides back and forth in the piece of pipe. We only want it on there far enough to glue the cap on the other end. This is the second cap. So this is what it looks like. We have got a cap on each end, a poo noodle that sits in the center, and we put that big sliding piece of metal or sliding piece of rod inside. So on this end of the noodle is where I would attach my fishing line or whatever fishing cord. So I would have a leader that's 10 to 12 to 14 foot long and some type of circle hook to catch catfish with, and some type of small piece of weight above that circle hook. So we would bait the line, and so you can hear the piece of metal sliding back and forth inside the tube. When we get ready to put this thing in the water, we're going to turn it upside down, make the piece of metal slide all the way inside of the noodle part or the floating part. We'll lay this noodle down flat on the water. This thing will literally sit there flat until it gets some type of bite. As soon as it gets a bite, the line will pull down on the bottom. Did y'all hear that piece of metal slide back through that piece of pipe? As that metal slides back through that piece of pipe, this thing sits here in the water, tilted up, to let whoever the person is using the noodle or fishing, it lets you know, hey, I got a bite. Something has hit your bait and it has stood your noodle up. So at this point in time, you go check the noodle. Whether it's got a fish or not, you can always check your bait and change your bait. And that way, you don't sit there and fish for hours on end without any bait, because you can let these things float for a half a mile down the river if you choose to, and just stay near them or stay in the middle of them with your boat and watch your noodles as they float down the river. So at least you don't float for hundreds of yards and not have bait on your noodles. Like I said, this is one of the best designs I have ever saw in my life. So I appreciate y'all watching. I'm going to build about 10 of these, and the next time that you guys see the noodles, we're going to have some bait on them and we're going to be fishing. So y'all have a good day. Y'all be safe, and it's good seeing you. If y'all get a chance, y'all subscribe to the channel if you like the things that we're doing. Thank y'all.